All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. All for joining us this evening.
do the classes and shooting stuff and all the paperwork. The fee that's in the initiative will not even come close to covering paperwork. The scenario was that tens of thousands of barrels of crude oil got dumped into the Willamette. So we had to respond. And I was in the PIO and liaison shop, which is where I've been in previous these. And being under the pressure to be getting calls from the public, from elected officials, and how you respond to those things, and you have to document everything. And there's evaluators scoring you on how you do.
We're not broadcasting live.
I think we are now.
Are we now? Okay.
The sound.
So it's, I don't know if PDs do experimental things like that, but it's a true learning experience. My adrenaline with the first couple calls and getting things out was pretty high. But after the 10th or 12th call from mayor or city commissioner, I was able to respond, get the information, get back to them and follow-ups and stuff. But it was a really, really good experience. And anybody that's been involved in the ICS system, it's called the Incident Command System. It's a great methodology for dealing with wildfires, disasters, spills like this, you know, police response to things, fire. It's an amazing system.
We have done those here in the city. Actually, this is the use for anything that we have to hand up. So we'll do tabletop exercises. Wildfires, I think, was going out at 12. I mean, you're taking on all these that arise and how you troubleshoot them.
With based off of the big.
So as I'm driving up to Jansen Beach for the exercise this morning, hearing on KXL that at 10:20 we were going to do the big shake exercise. During our scenario, they came over the loudspeaker and we all got under the tables and held on, just like we would have if something happened during a real incident. Play as it comes at you. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, I just want to share how disappointed I am to be here tonight. Really thought I would be training handcuffs and everything. Getting a t-shirt and everything. And then the Citizens Academy, I canceled or delayed for a while. So anxious for that to get back on the books. And this is probably for, but I noticed in last month's minutes, there was some conversation about how city council was going to Food carts in the city? Just wearing a second. I can wait for you.
Thank you. All right, so. We don't have any- I just want to, first thank all of you for agreeing to have this meeting. Sorry. And so on. Thank you, Angie, for getting. It's a good plan, I'll be here. So thank you all for being here this evening. There has been a lot of talk online about noise at night, cars racing up and hill. We know about Elwood.
Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, name a street.
Other thing. And so I just wanted to see if you could speak sort of what noise ordinance is, and how you guys were. And I know it's. Literally on it.
But I can't think of the ordinance, no.
Oh, you have. No, not number needed.
No, it's something that it kind of ebbs and flows in the city. You know, these cars and the kids and the exhaust. One with it. I mean, when you say that, because we just had an email. At Hill resident or that was experienced. Yeah, so there is a state ordinance on the decibel vehicles. We don't carry decibel readers in our cars. But there is an ordinance and I can't remember what it is, but I mean, it kind of goes along the lines of reasonable noise, and I think all that includes vehicles. Don't quote me on that because I can look, but I know there's some discussions happens about how we can start. To your point, catching them is always the challenge. So what we've done in the past is we have a routine. It allows us, rather than just arbitrarily and randomly going, oh, we'll go sit down at 8 and hopefully something. We get a pretty good idea maybe when we've written tickets for it before, so it is. Wish we had a better system. I hear them, I mean, right, hear them all over the city. We're trying to address the ones when they come up. Deal with them when people are calling and get info, but. So, have I addresses or specific timeframes that you want us to focus? Oh, yes, you do.
Well, I was just saying, if you're looking for
I'm sorry to
specific
put you on the spot.
timeframe, every single night on Sunset between 10 and 11 p.m. Multiple.
Or just driving.
What part of Sunset?
Well, I mean, I'm closer to that Woodhaven Park, like our street backs up to it. But so somewhere between 99 and probably towards Archer Glen, but we're not down that far. We're more like to Woodhaven, but it's routine every night. It's either it sounds really fast, maybe not, but it sounds like speeding and then volume of cars. Multiple. Yeah. At least a few, at least 3 to 5, but
You say
it's,
volume, you're talking exhaust.
yeah. And exhaust and like popping noises.
Okay, yeah.
And it's clockwork, 10 to 11 p.m. every night.
I will pass that on. See, this is what I need. Get somebody to sit out there.
Yeah, and our house back to Sunset, so the way that it echoes
Yeah, there's
to the houses.
Helps that.
Yeah,
Unless you have a camera on your.
No, yeah, because our front door is the other way, but it backs to Sunset, so it is quite loud.
Now, there's the music. We have an ORS that's specific. Tracking. However you can. Or all those things, but this is the biggest complaint.
Thank you, and I apologize, I didn't mean to put you on.
No, I was just kidding.
Was. I had to get into. So, with that said, let us go. Business. So, jumping to our community surveys update. Have a nice succinct community survey, Chrissy, we haven't got a chance.
No, Angie shot it through to me and had me review it, so.
You have anything you want?
So if you look at question number 3, the format that we have and the program that we're trying to use to get out there, apparently, unless we have a workabout, apparently only allows us to put in 10 items and enabling us to identify them in priority. If we submitted it as is, it would just be check boxes and we wouldn't know what the priority was. But if we can get it down to 10, currently, then it allows us to prioritize. I think it's important. We want to know the priorities versus guessing what they're checking. So part of the conversation here tonight was, is there a way to condemn? Oh, I can't remember how we have. How many?
14.
So, yeah, I mean, are there 4? Thank you.
We were just. We were already on it.
So are there 4 in there that we can combine? Or is there one that we can eliminate that maybe captured somewhere else? If not, that's fine. I just thought if we're going to go with this format and have the ability to prioritize.
Here, lead by example, I'm reading.
Okay.
Parking enforcement, that's a compliance issue. So I would say that would be one of you. Officer, I'll note that.
I agree. That was one that I thought would go, even though I'm sure there are complaints that come in parking on residential streets being. Some of the, are we done with that? Because I have some ideas on some combinations. I was thinking of lumping traffic and concerns speeding and adding impaired driving to that. All being traffic related items. That's just a thought. The home and retail thefts and car break-ins, I think.
Combined.
Should be combined. And then I'm struggling with this one, but staffing, funding, and officer health, which is how I described part of officer support structure. Because I think training and equipment are assumed that we're going to be doing the training and equipping our officers to do the job. Public would assume that we're doing that.
I was too busy trying to write stuff around. Which are the last 2 that you're looking at?
So the car break-ins with the theft.
Yep, got that.
Okay, and then I looked at staffing and funding and combining with officer support services, but calling it staff and funding and officer health. But that may be adding too much. That's.
We all need to move forward.
Right.
Well, if we take off parking.
Find the last two, that would be two,
Two.
two more.
ordinance would be-
I offered that could go in with traffic, safety, or speeding and
Community safety. That role. On the retail thefts carpet. Else could fall.
That was one that stood out to me, just that it's very broad.
Staffing funding.
Oh, yeah.
That's where that's what we're asking.
Yeah.
Community
Yeah.
safety is based on our staffing.
Yeah, I like that.
There's your four, there's your four.
Would you, and maybe you said it, but would you be opposed to, on the first one, we had traffic concerns? Driving inside. So I'm correct, the bottom two in home, retail thefts, car break-ins, all in one?
Yes.
Okay, that's in general.
I'm gonna put it in the box if they have anything else.
Oh, yeah.
If they're worried about parking enforcement, that's where they'll put that anyway.
So since I wasn't here for the discussion and looking at it tonight, number 5. I know when, for those of us that have been on this committee for a long time, this whole 2 officers has been one of the things we've worked on a lot or talked about a lot. With the staffing today, Chief, are we still in that situation? Okay, that's what I just wanted to verify, that in that graveyard shift, if somebody gets taken to Washington County, we're down to 1.
And, you know, part of this conversation, and I think it's important that the community understands. We're talking 3 to 5 years. Realistically, if we were to. So, you know, the longer we address this kind of stuff, but I think it's important. We're growing. We're talking a lot, city council's talking a lot about retail, commercial. And the one thing I want to stress with uniqueness of Sherwood is that everybody else is building up around us. Roy Rogers is going to be a commercial residential strip. The thing that I think people forget is that we service all those people. I'm here because we have great things to offer. We're going to have restaurants. We're going to have things to come and do, but they come here. They're in crashes, involved in things in our law enforcement resource. And they're not a part of our tax base. I'm not complaining that they're coming because we like it, but we also need to recognize that these swells. Us keeping up with that leasing side is something that we need to acknowledge. Downside is we don't get the money for all of them. I mean, retailers do. I mean, that's important. Wrong, but we got to find ways, or we have to at least start looking at, okay, what does that mean? What's the weirdly enough, crashes in this. A lot of rear enders, a lot of, and I know Councilor Young will attest to this, is that, you know, they're not making the streets any wider for us nowadays. They want to shrink them, and they want, you know, condensed housing, and there's gonna be a lot of problems that come with that. So I just throw that out there, and thanks for acknowledging that, Chris, that, you know, this is not a quick fix. 5 years to do.
And if I, oh, go ahead, Lori.
So back to, on number 5 again, I appreciate the idea that we have the sentence that if someone is arrested and taken to jail in Hillsborough, it's a 2-hour time period where not available. I found it interesting too, that for every domestic violence call, both officers have to respond. Yeah, so should that be in here too?
No, this is one of those questions where I've struggled with because there's so many scenarios we can throw out there. I mean, because it's DUI is a 2-call. For, hour, 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, while you're dealing with them on the road, it's not until you get back here and they're secure that one officer to call domestic thefts, anything in progress. Burglary, theft now at one of the theft of a vehicle. Multiple people are going. It's not a 1-car response. Thankfully, we have the partnerships with obviously Tualatin and Tigard and King City who are able to get here. How long are we going to rely on them? And and quite frankly, they rely on us as well. So it's a great relationship. But
So,
I think that needs to be fleshed out a little bit more because people don't know that.
Does that need highlighted more than this one?
Well, things, just something more broad-based, like domestic violence calls, DUIs, thefts in progress, anything in progress requires both officers
yeah,
to be there.
or just say, any calls require the response of 2 officers.
yeah, maybe just.
Yeah, and then even if you give some of those in parentheses examples, not to make it too long, but it makes people realize what those things are.
Yeah.
That would go after the sentence. Have 2 officers on. However.
Yeah, or many calls.
Many calls.
Such as thefts in progress, domestic violence, UIs, crashes, non-injury crashes. You guys, run into each other every which way, but nobody's hurt. It takes 3, 4, 5 officers because we're shutting down. Shutting down roads, multiple roads, directing traffic, waiting on tows. Extremely time consuming, and that's not even this. I mean, not a crime in progress that just we people.
I think that needs to be in. That's one thing that I noticed years ago when we were doing the original one of these, people just didn't realize that, what do you mean somebody leaves and we only have 1 officer for the whole town? That was news to them, and they were shocked.
I remember a time when Sergeant was on and I was working. We both had to leave. I was down in Portland and the other officer never calls. Nobody in the city.
So back to the whole thing about increased traffic and the growth and stuff, it reminds me of these staffing discussions with Chief Groth and him talking about Tigard and Tualatin and the influence of the I-5 corridor and 217 and what additional staffing they had above and beyond just the comparison of population because of that traffic and exposure that they get from those major corridors in those communities. We're getting there clearly with the traffic that we're seeing here locally.
I think a great indicator of that is our red flex. Implemented that 2010. All along with the belief that, eventually it would be fine because that thing. It hasn't, it's been consistent. And it's just because what's getting busier, we're not giving the same people over and over again. There's a few. Yeah, there's a few. Don't get me wrong. Some take longer than others to learn. But you are just seeing this steady, just traffic flow, and it's just going to increase, and it's actually shocking. And so again, I say that because a lot of people that come, we don't get to pick who we service because so that's just something that's been on my mind and I probably talked about, but. A lot of discussions about opportunity for growth. And in Sherwood.
Yeah, I would love to flush out. The number. What that sentence or two sentences would look like added. After that, that where we're thinking it should go, typically we have. Many calls, violence. We're looking at putting that.
Oh,
Crimes in progress, I mean, that's kind of. Crimes in progress are going to take. Well, and you've probably seen it and you can probably all see it. Balkan cars in here. What's going on? It's.
However, many calls such as domestic violence progress require a minimum of 2 officers to respond. Ensure-
And if someone is arrested, right into that next sentence.
Yeah.
And if an arrest is made.
Yeah.
Should I say?
Someone, if you're gonna keep
Yeah.
the sentence flowing, someone is arrested and taken to jail, just, and then just, the rest of the wording's already there for you.
Yep.
Oh, we want to ensure.
Are you reading the same one we are?
Oh, you're at the top. I'm here at this one here.
Yeah.
Oh, the intro.
We're number 5.
Oh,
Okay. All right, I see you. I apologize.
Oh, I didn't even read the first paragraph. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should clean that one up too then. But what's the keep with 5?
Okay.
okay.
If you make it a very long intro for 5 versus.
Seems like the intro is still.
Yeah, I think good.
Don't feel good?
Yeah.
Intro's still good.
Okay.
For all those changes.
Yes. You have that?
Well, no, not really.
It's okay. That's why I wanted to make sure all in favor. Thank you guys for clearing that up. My apologies. All right. However, let me see. The.
24-hour period. However,
However, many calls such as domestic violence, traffic accident, crimes in progress. Oh, and crimes in progress, I should say, require officers to respond. And if someone is arrested and taken to jail,
Then the
well,
rest-
that can
Then
be-
we just slide right in.
Yeah, that's already there.
Okay.
The only little tweak I think is calls for. Yeah, you said, period, many calls require.
oh, calls for service required.
I just want. For us.
Yeah,
Granted.
not just the complaint, but it.
Yeah, I mean, they're calling and asking and needing us.
No, I think the opening is good. What did you steal?
I have a question on, question number 1. They're a resident of Sherwood or business owner, do we want to be specific about, are you a Sherwood business owner?
Oh, yeah, probably.
That's the question.
Oh, yeah, I guess I can, yeah, you could be a business owner.
You're like, yes, I own my own business, but not a church. No, that's
Yeah.
Good catch on that.
So since I wasn't here for 2 meetings, we're planning on doing this electronically, right?
Social media. Because I think, well, we've had a lot of those discussions. I think where we're at and where our social media platform is, I think we'll
Put it out on the police page and the city puts it out on the city page.
yeah, hopefully we'll go. Those that don't follow.
The city webpage or the city Facebook?
City Facebook.
Yeah.
You can also put it on the website too.
I would. The city puts all their servers on the website and Facebook, so if we put it on the website too.
Yeah, definitely.
So does the city ever boost posts?
The city, or your police department of the city. The police department doesn't. But I don't think the city does either. They're just, they don't want.
Once.
I think it was a
Because-
hiring one.
Because this came up in the exercise today about, because EQ was in the room with me, they were on the team, and they were putting stuff on the DEQ's Facebook, social media, talking about the incident. They weren't really, but we were going through the exercise. And I asked the same question to them, and the problem for them on something like this was the time that it would take to get it approved, the expenditure approved wouldn't work for something that had to be so. This is different, and that's why I'm asking, because you can boost it and target it just to Sherwood residents and people that follow your Facebook accounts. And that way, you're gonna pick up people that may not be following either of the Facebook accounts, but are on social media. So
What does it mean when you say, do you boost it?
It-
I
it-
had one.
You know those sponsored ads you see come through your Facebook?
your feed, those
You
are.
didn't subscribe to those pages, but you're seeing it because
Right.
they boosted it. They sponsored it, which means it gets pushed out to as many 97140 or whatever the parameters they set.
Oh, okay.
That's exact, that, so you're putting in parameters and you're putting in 100, 200 or 50, given the time that you're gonna go out, it will tell you when you're setting it up, how many people it will reach, given your target and your spend. So, but
Always see how many responses you are getting and then.
Right.
just make that decision.
Yeah.
the only thing,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's cheap.
Oh, I still will say something, my brother.
yeah, the only thing is you're only gonna reach people that are on those feeds, the 2 feeds that way. But if we're getting.
And all the community groups that will share.
And everybody, like every person even who shares, which happens a
That's
lot
true.
too.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind, I forgot.
A lot of people share.
We will have, obviously, we will have that person. Gonna be filling them out.
Well, then should you have a neither option on number 1?
Oh,
Yeah, and then we can sort.
Maybe then we can, yeah.
there.
Cause I know some people that
Or
are still
neither.
on the community pages and stuff that don't live in the state
Yeah, But
anymore.
they might still care about our
Right,
and fill one
right.
out.
Yeah, you think they did.
Yeah.
They sure did.
Add a neither.
That's a
Good point.
idea.
When are you guys gonna push this out?
As soon as possible. I'd love to get it out before the holidays. Before people are gone and. So if we can solidify this, I think our challenge right now is making sure. That one hurdle was the 10 question thing, and then long as that works, do you feel like?
It's just the one piece trying to figure out, this is through Microsoft Forms. I think will be really slick. There's, right now, my challenge is when I go to about releasing it, it just says what is available is internal Center City staff. So there is an option to share it with others. So, IT's help. So once we get that, then I think we'll be good.
Yep. We're gonna have as soon as possible.
Question. So on number 5, I'm sorry, I guess you read it. When it said that now there are 2 officers on duty at any given time, the rest of the. I know we changed that language. Officers. They select 2. Okay, that means somebody may be gone, but we still want 2, on duty. That what we're looking for? Why want 2 officers at least available at all times? Now. Oh, there's no officer. So if they answer 2, is that still supporting? You know what I'm saying? Or
Maybe you put 2, let's see, status quo or current staffing, so that they understand this is what, you're asking for 2, you're asking to maintain what we already have.
yes.
So
So in
after the
parentheses,
current
yeah.
level of staffing.
Yeah, maintain current level. Parentheses there.
Yeah, maintains
Yeah.
current level.
3, 4.
Like that.
Thank you for everyone participating in that. Question for you, Andy, real quick, if I'm clicking on it. Are we going to send this out to them? I can help.
The SWOT report.
The survey.
Oh, the survey.
Letting them.
Oh, yeah, we can do that. I can well, I'll send it to everybody, just to
Yeah.
make sure I got everything that was, I captured everything that was mentioned there, and yes, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Now swap report. So. Have been here before, and so if you look at, if it just speaks to what went back in 2021. Hopefully we can get through this evening. If not, we can have some time for you to go home.
Usually for the December meeting, when we do a boards and commissions dinner.
Are we gonna do one again?
Do we have to submit it by a certain date prior to that, do you know? I'm just wondering, like, could we brainstorm and even then like finalize next meeting? And that'll be in time.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I just want to make sure you guys.
Yeah, so if you
Yeah.
wanted to take some, I wanted to sort of get the board's opinion on what you think of this SWOT process, because some of you have done it many years. There's a couple of us counselors who think we could get the same information in a little bit easier format. Basically, as a counselor, what I'm interested in knowing is like, what did you guys do this year? And what do you guys wanting to do next year? And do you have any challenges that are keeping you from getting? I find as I've sit through a couple boards putting their SWOTs together. Well, that's in the strength. Well, no, that really fits in the threats. And no, that really fits in and this was something that was started, I guess, many, many months ago. I don't know. What's your opinion?
I agree. I mean, by this thing,
So our next meeting's the 17th of November. So that's week before Thanksgiving and good time, a couple weeks before the next council meeting. We have a little time. And I'm really tired. I think there are better things.
This is what what I, as a counselor, want is when I read this, like what, or anything that any board has given us that we should be adding into our council goals this coming. Or, I mean, that's from talking to Mayor Mays, who I think part of initiating this in a prior mayoral terms. That's the intent, my understanding.
Goals is identified the goals. What do we want to do? And then giving them tentative timeframes. A 1-year project, a 2-year project, a 3-year project. I think that actually, well, on track, or this isn't, or this. That's a little better format. Is that what you're thinking, Chris, rather than? Because I think that's the goal of this board is we set goals. We work towards them, and then obviously talk about how we're getting there or the challenges and realistic expectations of accomplishment versus. I think is probably what happens. Yeah. Whereas we have a living document, that is with us almost every board meeting that we're going. Okay, we made any progress on any of these goals? I guess that's my.
And I look at what we did last year. And under number 2, 2 to 3 major goals for the upcoming year. A and B to some extent, based on what we got asked to review, we've done that. But I don't know that we, as an advisory board, have really helped in. That's my gut, but I'm not on it this year. So how much activity you've had, I know you've had some meetings that haven't happened. That would be my assessment looking at ag last year were our 3 priorities.
Well, not even like you were talking about from a goals perspective and then a timing of accomplishment. Just thinking in like a work environment, usually you set goals and then midway through the year, you're reviewing your goals to make sure sort of you're on track. Yeah. So we probably also should set them for December, and halfway through the year as a board, we should review those goals again. I mean, some of them are outside of our control, but then at least we're refreshing to review sort of what we talked about and what we chose that we wanted to sort of focus on and see if we're on track for those or not. But I do like the simplicity that you're talking about because this format seems like almost too much to focus on. And I like the simplicity of, even when we were listening to all the other boards give their updates, there's a lot of accomplishments, but it also seems very complicated. Yeah. And it would be really cool if we could focus on sort of the top things that they're the most proud of, because that we'd probably remember those things a lot better than hearing all of the information from each.
Sorry. I just, every time we have to do this thing, I sit here and think, oh God, there's another bullet that we have to come up.
See, and I don't think we want our board of commissions to feel like that, right? I mean, we're all volunteers, you're all volunteers, and if I'm hearing from committees like, oh my God, you slut. Yeah.
Well, that's what I said.
I'm gonna get in trouble with the mayor, but this is my opinion tonight.
The problem is the hidden spot. That's the problem.
Well, to your point, or number 2 in strengths is that enthusiasm, and we don't want it to wane because.
How many bullet points? Hey, there's 6 in there now.
Kind of the trouble with our goals as well is that they're not numerical. I mean, they're kind of ongoing support, increase awareness, but there's nothing for the years where there were very specific numbers you had to
Right.
hit, and here we're.
Specific and
we're kind of
Yeah.
messy. So,
And I think we talked about the boards and commissions dinner and having each committee, each board stand up and give just a very quick report, not going through your whole slide, like just saying, highlighting what was good and what we're gonna, so. Like. We might put together as a report of such. Know if we can just.
Yeah, are we gonna get away? Are we gonna get it out of doing
I
SWAT
was
this
about to
year?
say, we come and present some goals, and the challenge is we have the survey going out, right? So that's gonna be part of what guide. We have. Yeah, are we able to, like you said?
So if you'd like to, everybody take this home and just start noodling over, like, everybody pick one thing. And in the meantime, I will clarify with the mayor that I've had this discussion. And they may just say, just provide a report, just some sort of report, you know, and if he says, nope, you need to do SWAT, then November, you come and you finish your SWAT.
And I really like what Brian mentioned about sharing survey as part of the survey results. Encapsulated, I think that the best thing that we could do at that in front of everybody and the council to say, these are we only are asking a handful of questions. We could slam through those and say, this is what we found out. This is what citizens are telling us is their priorities for.
You want to present that at boards and commission before?
Sorry.
Yeah, that.
Okay, yeah.
We have a lot of months to talk about that part.
Tell me about the survey that you've put out there. I don't know.
No, that's,
You guys.
that's,
and my issue with the SWOT is, I mean, I looked at last year's, and with two exceptions, this year's could be identical.
Yeah.
And that's what we've
Yeah.
done in the past. Oh, that's same. And so,
Like we'll tweak one or two things, but a lot of them, yeah, it just kind of roll forward.
I think we addressed the fractioning. A little bit of that, but not to this.
yes.
I think that's not engaging in or showing complacency. Presence has really knocked down.
Yeah, that's changed.
Now it's all there, and their comments, great, their Facebook page. Out of. Opportunities, I think we have knocked those out of the park. Maybe as a state. Really proud of that. Interaction. Or, you know.
so your report could include all that we think we've accomplished.
Yes. Goals and survey response.
And it'd be good next month to hear from, really our newest members are some of those who aren't here. So even though some of us has been through this a lot of times, it'd be, good to hear their feedback, which I know we're finalizing it next month anyway, but I wouldn't want to finalize too much of it without hearing feedback from really our three newest members.
That's a point.
Just because they probably have a fresh look and excitement about it, and we're seeing it over and over again.
Either a fresh look at it's not even a fresh. All right, so that's the takeaway. We'll come back with some new ideas, and we don't have to have the same number of, we may have more. But I find number of weaknesses. How would you move? He wants to see. Just the ability to accomplish all.
Meantime, I will get an answer as to in a different form.
Okay. All right. All your input on that. Next, we will go to police policy update.
Our favorite time. So guess what? I'm gonna spare you guys a bunch of grief. I think I'm gonna kick the can down the road till next month. There's some clarification that I need to get. Council probably, and just having some discussions about what we want brought in front of the board, that I'm not just, boring you guys and that at operational level that can be made without you guys having to worry about it versus a legislative or a larger scale decision. But the one I will touch on, just because it is a legislative mandate that came down, it is 6. Oh, boy. It is,
Which one?
It's, chapter 6, investigative operations. It's the very last page. Actually, if you flip over to the very last page, it talks about it. There was a legislative, Senate Bill 386, and it talked about interviewing juveniles, how we interview them, the fact that you can't basically curse them or lie to them, and all these part of the bill. So I tell you, I just bring this one to your attention because we did do it. We had to have it submitted. That's all down there. All been. As far as what our policy is, it's something. All the other. Pretty clear and concise, but there's a lot to it. But I didn't want you to look at the back of that and say that was decent. It's been done, it's been taken care of. But that is one of those that has a lot of meat to it, and it's clarifies how we enter. And actually, it's good stuff. It's the kids. That is it. Otherwise, the rest of them are pretty straightforward kind of deals, but
These aren't showing us our actual words of our policy.
this is the words of our
Right.
policy, and that's why I'm like, you guys are gonna kill me if I hand this to you. So I wanted to try to weed through and make sure that some of these things are not necessarily anything that really is. That's where I want to clarify. You guys really even care about the fact that we need a change from those kind of things that are some of the.
If it doesn't go through here, does it still come to council?
Well, that's what I need to, that's what I need to clarify.
Oh.
I don't want to bypass one or the other. I want to make sure that it's all in everybody's purview and that everybody is getting what they expect when they review. How deep do you want to go? Do you want to know that I changed it? This is technically a policy change.
Just reporting it.
Yeah.
I think would be,
So some of those things or I changed the fact that we now go to these versus paint t-shirts. Or
That's a policy?
I changed our Class A uniforms, but we don't have the coats. A different dress. Those are the kind, I mean, you guys really care? So.
Is that, I guess, is that in our policy?
So you know, what I'm doing, I'm
Some
going.
things administrative, you know. and
I'm going in there making policy changes. I'm like print all this out. I'm gonna have to make sure I have it for EAV and count. Really care if I change it from a button down shirt to a, no. So those are some of the things I want.
I do like this summary. I'm going through it and I'm going, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
I do have one question on the April 22. Chapter 3, and it's talking about controlled devices. It references House bill from this last section. And
Which page are you on?
it's April is the date up in the top corner. It says page 2, but it's not in the order that. Okay, yeah. So, I need a little help understanding this one as I look through it. Could you talk about down below the bulleted thing, but I'm not sure what we're actually changing. Because that's.
What it does is it prohibits the use of the handheld chemical incapacitants at conditions in crowd control operation. So there's OC, this one's kind of a little bit of a where these all come in. Probably where we'll want to have this discussion.
For that one, just, there was stuff in it that I was scratching my head.
And we'll get that answer to you before we leave though, but these will all, I will go through these all, much more detail in the next one. Like I said, I need to clarify some things on this. So that I make sure I'm giving you what you need. And some other things if I don't. But I will earmark that to make sure that we discuss that for next.
And it was just provided to us in a PDF. On the website, so that way people can, you know, when we get an email to us. Whole thing.
This,
Yeah.
the policy.
Yes, that.
Yeah. Because I think that's what we're used to seeing.
Right, but it was.
It's a lot.
painful.
Well, and that's the one.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's something we have to see. Point by point, get it early.
Yeah, if you get it early, you could look at this and go, that doesn't make sense. What is it?
Yeah, you can go back and, oh, that looks interesting. Let's go down.
I remember right, the retiring chief asked the interim chief at his first meeting here to take us through.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know how painful it is, so I'm trying to. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's important. I
Yes.
just, you know, it's some of these, like I said, just some of the examples I gave, and I want to make sure it's worth going through all this and that you guys get something out of it as well and you understand versus me handing you a half, you know.
The one, just to comment, the wellness stuff in here with the way it was presented made sense. I didn't have any questions, but that one about the crowd control, I was.
It's funny you said it because I just read that the other day. I will get that for you, Chris. I mean, obviously, we're gonna go through these. But I will- Yeah. If there's, in your brief skimming of that, if there's any others that you want. Or-
Medical aid and response. Medical attention for restrained person.
Mandated to give them
How's that different than what happened?
Way we've always operated. It's just this is probably maybe one of the bigger struggles is a lot of these things that are in play are the things that we've always done. Keeping everybody else up to date and legislatively mandating how we should operate as a city. A lot of this comes under the umbrella because it's just our accreditation. And just the importance of just being professional in what we do. Simply just even that, treating people with just back and regardless of what they're doing, if they help, we're going to give to them. So do a great job of that.
So, reading what it says in April 2022, looks to me like the change is they've added the definition. Third line down, it says the statute created in the first special session 2020 to govern the use of tear gas, chemical crowd control operations. Next line says new version defines crowd control as pre-violence management dispersal of people. Further defining what they mean crowd.
And it also refers to the hand. That's the lawyer in helping read.
So it's a great point. One of the things that we've been working on, and actually the council supported that, is just having, so 20, I think we had 26 police reform bills back in this legislature, all the mandated changes that every, there's a lot of legalese, a lot of making sure that we're minimizing our liability with, but understanding what we shouldn't. And so we're going to have, the resource go through those today. Police department, city council, all in tune as to impact of these things. So never thought we're going to have to be there where you're going to have to be out there having attorneys and discussions about these things. Yeah, a lot coming. Several bills that are coming. Or at least going to be thrown out there. So, yeah. Yeah, it's. I think you touched on it, Brian. I mean, I think things have calmed down. I think there's a lot more rational conversation. Nice. Never been opposed to sitting at the table and saying, well, how can we do better? Whole day, you gotta try to have a discussion. Inability to do it. You're like,
Too bad, figure it out is what they say.
yeah. You're like, can't happen. Real quick timeout. Can I introduce our newest captain? I don't think you've met. Captain Dano is what he goes by. So this is our police advisory board. He's aware of who we are and what we're about, but he hasn't had a chance to come in and be a part of the meeting. And so he'll probably be popping in here on occasions. And if you want to just drop in and say hi and introduce himself.
He loves the traffic safety committee.
Yes.
Some of these faces are a little familiar, chief.
So you're on night shift today?
They started this morning,
Oh, you're just not off yet.
still just doing what we gotta do.
You didn't tell him about the interview process.
I'm not gonna work you hard.
It's all right. His drive home is much closer. Since it's making sure.
Nice to meet you all.
Good to meet you.
Thank you. Welcome. Next time you see, we'd love to have a SWAT of,
Anything else? Is that it? All you got?
Unless you'd like something else, Chief. It sounds like you were talking about right up my alley, which was.
Policies?
Oh, no, we weren't there yet. Okay, I'm done.
Right. We have traffic safety update next on our.
I didn't know if you were excited to talk about it. And you're always excited.
Start all out.
Okay, so we had one new one this time, so maybe we'll talk about that one first, because we did actually have somebody come to present to our committee. Which now this is the second person who has come in to speak to our committee, so that's, you know, good that we're getting community involvement and
And
that
since
they're-
we just knocked parking enforcement out of the community survey, this one, of course, is about parking enforcement.
Yes. So the topic it's the street south of St. Charles Way, which runs along the side of really where Archer Glen sits. Sorry, I'm a visual person, obviously. So Archer Glen is facing Sunset. It's the street that runs sort of alongside next to it. So there's a pathway that comes out, which I actually wasn't aware of, and I've walked down that street a number of times. But there's a pathway that comes out in between houses on the Archer Glen side, that it just comes out to a street that doesn't have sidewalk on it. And so there was some concerns in the neighborhood that when cars are parked on that street and kids come out of that pathway, that there is a block in visibility coming into the street, that cars driving in can't see kids because of the cars that are parked along there. And so the police did actually take some video of driving down that road and sent it to the committee so they could visually see. And then somebody was knelt down behind a car as if they were coming out from that path, and you could not see that person until you came right up to it. So that was what was brought to us in a complaint, I suppose. But then the person who came actually lived in the house right there and talked about the reason why they park right there. And in this case, the reason is to slow down cars because they have a child with disabilities. And so they wanted to make sure that the traffic going through is slowed a little. And they felt like by parking cars there and the cars on the other side, that it kind of caused people to potentially slow down. But we talked about it as a committee, and we still have concerns, really, now that we saw it even by video, of that you just really can't see the kids coming out there. And that's how kids from that neighborhood and potentially other neighborhoods access that back field and going to school. And
Is that walkway at the end of the field there? The gate
yeah,
that comes out?
but it's just in between houses.
Yeah, it's in between houses, but like a
Mhm.
little kind of street there.
Yeah, and there's not a side.
It's not the one cleared out at the end of the football field.
Oh, it's not the one.
No,
Oh, this is,
it's, if you're like driving into the street, it's really not even that far into the street on the right hand side.
it's about at the 50-yard line.
And I didn't really even know there was a pathway there until we did this whole
I walked around.
thing. Yeah, and there's not,
And it's about this wide.
and we do actually in our meetings, what Chris is doing, we often all pull out our phones and we pull up Google Maps and we zoom in and we visually see them. And yeah, and so there's a little pathway right there. So well, so we actually talked through suggestions. So because and we spoke with the city engineer because he hadn't yet retired. We got him for a little bit longer. And because of the way that comes out, his recommendation was to actually paint it as a crosswalk. Because the kids come out from that side and there's no sidewalk there. Kids or adults, I suppose it could be anyone. But so they come out from that spot and there's no sidewalk there. And so they're forced to cross the street, really. But there's no crosswalk there. So a car driving in, again, wouldn't be aware that really anybody who comes out of there is looking to get to a sidewalk. So that is what we talked through, and the recommendation is going to go to the city manager now to paint a crosswalk there. And then as such, then on each side, you can't have parking. They write down how 20 feet on each side of the crosswalk.
Did the citizen who came and did they stay during your conversation?
They didn't.
Oh.
And so they wrote their concerns about why they use the parking and that they,
Well, and the gentleman who came was being complained about. It was his van that was parked there.
yes.
And so what he came to say, he kind of understood there was a problem, but the reason he parked his van there was to slow traffic down. And
So
if
maybe he'll leave.
well, he said, you know, if he decided, and the complaint wanted it totally a no parking, so. But he explained to us why that. et cetera. But if we had made it a no parking zone, this van owner wanted a big exemption for him to park there, so he. That can't.
Sounds like a good solution.
Yeah, and so, I mean, we hope too that even in painting really the crosswalk, that potentially even just visually, anyone who's driving in that street, hopefully that will slow traffic anyway, which is part of his concerns, even though he really, you know, he still wanted to park in front of his house, but we're hopeful that maybe the crosswalk portion of it coming into play then will hopefully slow the. That actually, we had a new complaint and we came to, I mean, we just knocked out some ideas that night and yeah,
Yeah.
and now it's going to the city manager. So from there, you know, we have ideas and then it goes to the next level of decision making, which is not our job. Our job is sort of ideas and suggestions and then to move it along or close it out.
Something like this, traffic safety committee part of SWAT. That's been acknowledged in it.
Our
We-
spot?
Yeah, we have.
be.
Yeah,
Just because we're talking about goals and accomplishments.
that was under two or three major goals for.
I mean, do they have to do their own SWAT?
Well,
Yeah.
no, not their own SWAT, but do we,
That was-
I mean, do we like, do we acknowledge what, I mean, we're talking about goals, I mean, we can capture what they do underneath there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they don't have to do theirs, we're gonna use their stuff.
Yeah, I don't think they have to do it.
I don't think so.
Traffic safety has to do a SWAT?
Oh, you have? I haven't been on it yet,
Has
so
traffic safety-
this is my first December, you know, period of being on it.
Oh, they haven't.
Oh, you have the last 2 years.
It's a subcommittee of the.
That's why, yeah, okay, we can talk about that later. I
Okay,
didn't,
yeah.
realize- I was like,
Hey, that's payback. Yeah.
They're mentioned on our SWAT, I think that's. what-
I mean, I suppose it is something city council's interested in, since we were the ones who, that committee be.
I just didn't know if it got captured.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Well, we've
Okay.
been together during COVID,
I
so
think
we
so.
haven't actually, we have done the SWAT.
Good job.
We'll either add that to the agenda or. I guess, and then another sort of thing that we've talked about before, but that's been a hot topic is, the intersection over by, the Starbucks and Walmart and Target. So the crossing, well, it's not even really an intersection. What we've learned, right? It's two driveways. And that a lot of people have concerns and complaints and, but according to sort of the city and city engineering and people who have reviewed it, you know, it meets all of the qualifications of being engineered just fine. So, the PD said that they went out there and watched that area for even a short period of time. And I can't remember the actual numbers, but
Close to 50%.
yeah, 50% didn't know what to do in that non-intersection, in that two crossing of driveways. So didn't make the right choice, didn't know, do I stop at that solid line before the crosswalk or even before you get to the crosswalk? So there was just a lot of people in that. So while there weren't accidents, there still was a mass confusion, I guess, or at least 50% confusion.
So the engineers get it wrong.
Yeah. And so, the city is working on, or, Galati was working on a white paper to the city manager about some recommendations for how to change things in that area. Whether it be, well, there was a whole, he kind of was funny. He didn't want to show his cards entirely. But then we kind of like drug out some of what some of his ideas were as far as potentially making right turn lanes, potentially putting, what do you call it, candlesticks that come out of the middle of the street to prevent sort of going across that intersection. So
We won't be able to leave from Target and zip straight across Walmart.
But you can go around the roundabout that still has
Yeah.
2 lanes on it.
Oh.
Or you can come out by
that's what
Red
Barbara
Robin and turn it.
don't bring that up in the.
I keep jabbing about that because it's a horrible thing.
But so that was one of the things on that intersection that we did. We've talked about it a lot and whether or not the engineering and the planning of it is right and wrong. And ultimately though, it sounds like that he is writing a white paper or wrote a white paper to the city with recommendations on how to fix that area because it's still a huge area of lanes, even though the traffic crash data doesn't show that it.
Once it goes that way, the white paper to the city manager, whatever, guys get.
That's what we were kind of asking about that and technically this one stays,
It will.
is open and so
It'll
Will-
stay open till you, okay.
and we decide sort of as a committee when to approve and close them out. So,
It was confusion though, because apparently there is a Jason who is an engineer who is doing the white paper. We have Jason who was the chair of our
oh,
committee.
yes.
And I said, and Jason's doing the white paper and we're going, wow.
Because Jason, that's chair, is a traffic
Yeah.
engineer.
Yes.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
even
So
way
that-
more confusing.
Yeah.
Two Jasons who are in. Is there anything else?
Yeah, well. Nano is still here. The most important thing we did, we had cake and ice cream for Bob Galati's retirement. So thank you for that. That was great. We had further discussion about the parking in the downtown area. And I think Bob did this just
Their
out of
problem?
meanness. Just a little, he said, well, if you want to know about parking, here's all the parking plans. And it's the most detailed, confusing stuff in the world. But-
And we were like, what are we looking at?
yeah, exactly, yeah, but basically, there's first phase of parking spaces, which were the bricks that delineate where to park. Those really tough to change. The second phase, parking spaces are delineated by painting.
Yep.
That can be changed a little bit. There's still kind of confusion regarding the 20 feet from the crosswalk. Can you park there or not? And Bob recommended that we give some recommendations to the city regarding once those spaces are really kind of finally identified, what should be put in them, stop people from parking them. Planters, bicycle racks, art pieces, whatever. So we gave a list of that and
I just think of one-way streets
Hmm.
with diagonal parking. You all
I
grown,
admit that I
so-
will go blocks to find 2 spots in a row so I can nose in instead of trying to parallel
Yeah.
park, so. It'd make me very happy.
Yeah. And the person who suggested it thinks he would get.
We have the parking right across the big lot, right across from down in the art center. Open a lot.
That means you have to walk.
Yes, because the
I-
railroad won't let us.
I know, I do.
Yeah,
That is-
I also
You need
think
a
that a
phone number
lot of
on
people
that.
don't recognize that as a parking space when they
Yeah.
yoga or whatever.
Well, some great stuff there. Counseling news.
Well, I wrote a few things down, so if you do want to bear with me for a few minutes. We're still on our search for city attorney and we have 5 candidates. I think we narrowed it down to 3 last night that we'll invite in for interviews and go through that process. We did a council appointment day night to fill Sean Garland's position just from now until December 31st, till the election. So we had 3 applicants. We chose Linda Henderson. She's a past counselor, served for 12 years and just learning curve there. To step in, we have coming up, it's the city attorney, finishing labor negotiations, everything she had experienced. We had 2 other great candidates that were husband and wife. It was so funny to watch them sort of position against each other for the, it was very funny. But they will be great future city councilors. But one thing I wanted to highlight, because I probably talked to you guys a lot about one of our goals being economic development in the city of Sherwood, bringing more businesses. Help on that, our tax base not being so heavy residential. So this was pretty exciting yesterday morning. And I'm gonna read it because it's a really a lot of information. The city of Sherwood worked closely with Select USA, an agency of the U.S. Department of Commerce, International Trade Administration, conduct a 1-hour virtual global tour of Sherwood, promote our community as a city that welcomes the continued growth of semiconductors and advanced manufacturing in our new industrial parks. Our objective, as always, is to work with our domestic and international partners to help us continue to grow new jobs in Sherwood and an expanded municipal tax. We were very pleased to have hosted 18 speakers at yesterday morning's event representing manufacturing companies which have located in Sherwood, our industrial real estate brokers and developers who are developing new industrial parks in our community, the mayor, Business Oregon, Great Bear, Portland, Inc., County Economic Development, PGE, Sherwood School District, Sherwood Broadband, and others. In addition, there were over 125 companies and international consular commercial officials who registered to attend our virtual event from Europe, Japan, Taiwan, South Africa, India, Southeast Asia, and Canada. We will be following up with all the registrants to provide them information on Sherwood as a highly attractive location for the semiconductor and other advanced manufacturing firms. There's a video that's going to be put out of this particular presentation that will be used for future tech people, their businesses, to Sherwood. And that's what a lot of what's going in down on 12th and Sherwood, 124th, all those buildings coming in. Jobs that you could live in Sherwood and still not have to really leave Sherwood to go to work, which like 5% of our population leaves Sherwood to go to work. Did before COVID, and now we all work from home. But so anyways, I just thought that's pretty exciting, and we're really, you guys have probably all met Bruce Pullman, our economic development. I mean, that he's like Energizer Bunny. And he's just been, but 3 years he's been with us, has just knocked it out of the park. And the whole staff of the planning department, building department, and however many other departments are involved in this. So, and the other thing, food carts, you wanted a little update. So we had a work session on food carts, and the staff brought us the code language of where food carts would be allowed or wouldn't be allowed and whatever. And we basically sent staff back with the direction of bringing us some suggestions of code language that will allow food carts and what that would look like, where they could be allowed for an entrepreneur who wants to do them to be have a food cart area, right? And then somebody, I don't know that we have an appetite that the city provides seating area type thing, but some developer, somebody who wants to provide that area to have multiple food carts and a seating area, and that would be up to somebody who wanted to do that. But yeah, so I think this council is open to having.
I know Newburgh has a lot of carts that's not that old. Daughter knows somebody that's got. Seems to be doing.
I don't know, Beaverton's.
The Beaverton one is.
Yeah.
Our family drives our kids love it. They're teenagers, so
Yeah.
they love the Beaverton one.
Yeah, and I think it's
Part of the round.
Right next to City Hall, new, and
way over there.
where the new performing arts center is.
And it has free parking building right next to it. I mean, that part's ideal. So you just drive in, it's free city parking, and then it's this amazing outdoor food.
Has anybody ever been to the one in Pete? So it's walk, I mean, you walk trails.
Arizona?
Yeah, it's probably 2 square blocks.
Field trip.
But you walk trails to each little restaurant, and they have their own seating, and cool little retrofitted trailers and or little bars, and talk about a really setting.
And
It's
of course,
extremely popular.
yeah, for the bigger cities that could you know, could support it. I guess my question's always been, do we have the enough people that would be able to support, you know? But that's not up to me. That would be up to the person who wants to put them in
Yeah.
to determine if that's.
The other thing that Portland's wrestling with right now is for some of their areas, the individual food pods aren't hooked up to sewer. So they have these aged plastic and it's a real problem in dealing with those if there's not direct connect sewers. So that would be something that I would hope our city check out under the code that would be a requirement, because Portland's scrambling now because they've got these people that they've allowed to operate and they've got big things that dumped in the proper location and they sit there and animal draws undesirables. So
The other thing that Portland struggled with in the food carts, put Portland on the map as a foodie city. Some carts themselves were great. Then the owners started to build onto them without code or
Right,
anything.
so yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll want to make sure our code is very locked up as far as what you can, I mean, the other concern was like food carts, since they're mobile. Business tax, no property taxes from them, right? Now, if they're located on a property, obviously that property is paying property tax, so it's just something. And then the last thing tonight over at the Ridges was the Sherwood West concept plan relook. So there's been a committee for the last 8 or 9 months you're on that committee? Yeah. Doing a relook on the Sherwood West concept plan that was completed, I believe, in like 2015, right before I got on council. Just and city council's priorities have changed a little bit for this economic development, making sure we have areas over there for industrial and commercial and residential, but not only. So is there like 3 plans people did? Is there some?
We had drawn up 3 different maps, so the committee broke up into 3 different groups. And it was great because each group had insight from different wheelhouses. So you had we all had, it was just mixed. They didn't put us together because we all came from different industries. But we all looked at what we needed in terms of residential, multifamily, low density, mid density, commercial mixed use, and parks. And so we were able to use the map and put out those small tips, if you will, different areas based on, okay, this area. Family around industrial, do you want the green space? How do you want the traffic to flow? What impacts are there for people that live in multi-family locations? Well, always drive there. Where should they be located? How do you keep certain property values high with low density? Home on land, they want that to be right next to an apartment. So there's just a lot of things to. The 3 maps were made by the 3 different groups voting on them. A lot of it looks like it was based off of where they live and the residents that were coming. Right here, I like this map because it doesn't put next to whatever they felt was maybe in. Right. Where would have more traffic. And challenge we're facing, of course, is that in 2001, any residential lot you can build 5-plex, 4-plex. Part of it that I'll be going back to is the setbacks and building wall. 5-plexes on. This is how can we help to? Don't want to totally discourage it because.
Did you guys put in specific for like cottage clusters?
Yes, cottage clusters was another one. And what does that want? In real estate, I just It's what people. They're few. There are some people that will pay just as much for a 2-bedroom cottage as they would for a 3-bedroom. Not as
Well,
much to clean.
Our code, I think they have to keep it under 900 square feet. Cottage clusters, no 2-story, they have a loft. Stories, no garages. So for,
Factor in parking.
Yeah.
it can have a carport, just not a garage.
Are we talking tiny houses?
No,
Not
no.
Tiny houses, different than tiny houses.
Yeah. Like, your parents might want to downsize, like I'm a empty nester now, I don't need my 3,000 square foot home. Where can my husband and I move to in 5 years, you know, not that I would want 900 square feet, but some people do.
Yeah.
So just a place to downsize in Sherwood, which we don't.
There, and the one thing that I'm thinking of, because I have kids that are gonna be moving into buying their first starter, is what we used to call common walls or duplex. That are, you know, you have a small garage, 1,100 square feet or whatever, but it's it has a yard for animals and stuff, but it's home.
Like kind of over by
There's
Safeway
some,
over there.
yeah.
So that was happening tonight, but there's also a virtual open house online that if you weren't able to make it, you can go on and give your input. Were we having a good turnout tonight over there?
Great turnout. There is a survey that was provided tonight. It's also on. Boundary.
Whether we want to do a request to Metro for a UGB expansion.
Yes.
I mean, we thought it was likely when we said no this last time that we just wanted to get through the comprehensive plan update, which is finished, through the relook at Sherwood West. Where we had all the plans and all of our code in place for HB 2001. Or we. It's
Been a great experience. Overall, people. That's much more businesses.
And all that to be said, that's a lot of information that doesn't apply to police advisory board, but it really does, because eventually you have to figure out the services that have to be provided over there. Housing and the development, commercial and industrial and whatnot.
So how does that work? If we increase the tax base? That mean that everybody else's taxes go down, or does that just mean additional money that's?
Yeah, but maybe yours won't have to go up as much, or maybe we won't be asking for levies for things, or maybe have more funds to be able to fund the lovely lifestyle that Sherwoodians. Plus, with the addition of like industrial or commercial, they take less services than residential. So I've heard this analogy and I know where it comes from, but each residence takes like cost $1.25 as commercial type thing. So it costs us more to service the police and whatnot residential than it does commercial. So there's
Put
that.
Walmart in that or no?
That could be debatable these days, for sure.
Home Depots are running close second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, my understanding is nobody's taxes would ever go lower, but maybe it's, I mean, there's always that, you get that 3% increase. That's a given every year. Not gonna change, but, there could come a point where we're asking for levies to our libraries or to fund our police department or to,
We've talked about the levy on and off.
yeah.
PD.
You only have so much money in your general fund, but all this commercial and industrial, it's increasing our general fund.
Base.
The revenue will help our general fund, without having to ask our citizens. Hopefully. A levy or.
When a developer wants to develop a piece of property, part of those charges, they're a charge for.
Well, I mean, we charge them SDCs.
Yeah. need to make that a component of it. You know what I'm saying?
The
That might be a
downside to
tough
that
lift.
is,
You couldn't
It's
use it for
not
ongoing
ongoing, yeah.
operations.
Well, it would be that
But, I
one
mean-
time, but then once they develop it, you still are gonna be getting
Yes,
some of the
yeah, you're
tactics of the homeowners or the business.
I think they'll lock that. I don't know. We already get lots of complaints about how big our SDCs are, so. Anyways, that's all I have for tonight. We can go down a bunch of funny trails.
I have a quick question on that area, and apologies that I haven't looked up the exact plans, but like, would the expansion of that area, say, put another like fire district there? Or like, how many sort of stations does a certain area require? Is that a weird question? Like, yeah, for TVFNR, like, would that then require another station?
I can't remember, I think they talked about they would have to make some readjustments. Yeah, I can't say specific, they're always adding. Talking pretty significant.
Acres, not all of it's buildable, but
I remember them talking about roadways and access. Last time, so I can't say definitively, but I bet you. Or
I
at
was just
least,
picturing how much even that one gets
or an
called.
adjustment, because you know, the complaint right now with TVFNR, and I don't mean to out there, but they're so deep in. And a lot of our calls for services. Expand out, their response times are gonna be longer. So I think that they're
Yeah,
looking to
move
get out
somewhere.
closer to Highway 99, and that may just offset that. They get
Oh,
out.
so it might even be an expansion to be even like a bigger station that maybe
They
has
just,
more.
33, which is Station 33,
Yeah.
may move out more central.
Mhm.
But you know, it's definitely on their radar. I mean, they've been part of
Yeah.
all of our comprehensive plan.
Hey, Hampton, is there any word on how they're doing? And do you happen to know the breakdown?
I don't know the room tax breakdown, but we're actually next meeting, having a work session on our transient lodging taxes as to where to use them. So
Right down, just going to the general fund?
no, we have them specifically set in a transient lodging fund. They've been sitting there ever since we've been collecting them.
Oh,
So it's not a ton because first we had an Airbnb here and there, right? Because we had collect on those too. Hampton's doing great though. I mean, my brother and sister-in-law tried one time and they were sold out. So I mean, I think they're doing good. They seem good. But we are now that we are getting taxes, we have a kind of a lump sum sitting there that we have to determine. I think the law requires us to use 70% towards tourism. Yes, and then 30% but can't just fund the general fund. Or the police department.
And then, do you know what's going on next to Symposium?
Yeah, it's a mixed use with some business on bottom and apartment townhomes.
Actually, moving forward, I heard a rumor that
Goes to-
something happened.
They had some, they're PGE issues right now, something. But I believe it's going forward. I just think they're on a
Yeah.
halt right now.
You update on our theater?
Here?
Theater.
Oh, theater. I'm like, here.
I'm sorry.
No, I have no updates on that. Hopefully another theater, but.
What about what's?
Oh, we just engaged with a broker to help us fill it. So we're this time around, we're going to use broker to help us advertise it and market it and go through whoever applies for that space, their business plan, their financials, to just make sure we get somebody who is really viable, who's going to be a good asset to. I thought I heard something like maybe around April.
Is the point still to make it more high?
I just think it needs to complement our downtown area and our art center. I mean, the goal originally was that from that establishment helps offset the income of our art center, right? I mean, our amenities cost money, but we'd like them to break even as best we can. So that was the idea. So
Help offset the art center.
Expenses.
yeah, help offset the art center, the cost of running the art center. So we rent out the art center, right? And we get revenues, but it doesn't cover all of it. I don't think we have anything predetermined in our mind what will go there. As far as whether it's high end or thick or wine bar or restaurant or.
Which bar or?
Okay, I took away enough time for city stuff.
Got, am I up? Yes. So the, section A, Citizens Police Academy postponed. So we had 5 applicants. Maybe your husband would have made 6. So
City councils that they did not get.
When we reopen it.
yes, we'll make sure everybody's invited council. We even asked the school forward. We'll get out a little bit more in front of it for the spring. I think we're thinking the first week of June, right after Memorial Day, before school's out.
Yeah.
Maybe some decent weather, so we've earmarked. Oh, look at that, you read it. 6-1 through 6-3. So we'll do some marketing there. It just didn't really make sense for us to spend. Not that we didn't like all 5 or 6 of you.
I agree.
We would have done it, but
That's a lot.
it's pretty heavy lift, and so we'll get that one going for June. I got a few minutes. I want to run through some things. One of the things I've been kicking around is creating a dashboard. I know that Chief Growth had some updates on kind of things that were occurring on a month. I want to do something similar, but I'm going to include what I'm asking or what I'd like input from you is what kind of data do you want? What is important? I can't have 100 things, but I want to kind of like capture important things that I think are relevant. People, number one, I think it's good and educational. Secondly, supporting and driving, hopefully. And when we go out and ask whatever and what we need, data behind it, or what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I don't have anything specific in mind. I mean, I have some ideas, but you have some things that you think are critical that are important that I need to capture. An email and let me know, the ball right here, but I know we're running out of time. Maybe unless you got something right off the top of your head, you just shoot.
I got some right off my
I
head.
knew you would.
And I think it would be really nice to just take what your weekly reports on Facebook are and put those string together, the data. Because there's so much good data. I look at those every week, how many calls you had, types of calls, those sorts of things. And then the other thing, based on our discussion around the survey, is I'm really curious how many times you've had to call for mutual aid because you're understaffed for some reason. If that's something you quantify, but when either it's a big enough issue that you got to call everybody in, I'd just be curious because that really is important, I think, for staffing to me. How many times we've, just for simple calls, we need to get that second.
Yeah. I'm sure we could probably mine that. I mean, it's there. I just don't know. I mean, that's going to be. Yeah, calls for service. Comparables and comparing to, where things are at, how they're trending. All those kind of things are what are floating around in my mind. So I'll start putting this together. And again, if you have ideas or you think there's some data that let me know, and then I'll put something together because I'd like to, come, monthly and just have it visual. I'm a visual kind of guy. I like to see they go up or down, and coupled with just what we're doing on social media, I think will be So that's that. We got 2 new hires starting Monday.
Okay.
So they are, one's a lateral and one's a new, so the lateral hopefully will. February, barring everything goes as planned. The recruit, probably see him next year.
Where's the lateral coming?
Newburgh. That, those two, and if you don't recall, we got the authorization to overhire from this last budget, so that's who those two are. So what that means is that we have 3 at the academy right now, which are going to graduate next month, December. They should be out of training early, mid-February. They are going to replace the 2 sergeants they're going to backfill. Allowed us, so the theory was that these 2 that we were just hiring, we're not having such a big gap in hiring. Madness to my planning. It's just, it's always predicated on, is the academy available? Are there laterals?
And this is all on some fancy spreadsheet of yours.
Oh gosh, yeah, you should, yeah.
Red means this and whiteboard.
I have X's and O's and lines and you ever seen those homicide boards with the strings and that's kind of what. So those 2 things are going on. That's pretty exciting. I mentioned the retirements. So Sergeant Shields and Sergeant Johnson. On probably, here by the end of the year or in February. The surprise, Captain Carlson will be gone next year in Devs. But we're still trying to plan for that, and what we're going to do is a little closer to that and see if we get on the bandwagon ahead and have them hired, walk out the door and have some gap in between.
Are some of them, are 2 on the work back program right now? Yeah.
Yeah, those 2 are, yeah, so. Academy on the road then.
Does that mean you're gonna be promoting from within?
Yes, so. Couple promotions. 9 position is open. Officer Jim Finch. He had her, obviously he has Miss B right now, and we have it opening, closes next Friday.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. And it'll be pretty expedited process, and we'll hopefully have a handler identified here in the next couple of weeks.
From when?
And yeah, we won't go out for
Okay.
something like that. The reason being is there's a 9 academy in February, so the new we'll have the opportunity to go through the. But we wanted to identify this handler sooner so they have the bonding time. So look at the dog right away, have 2-3 months to just before they have to really start working. So we'll have some downtime with the dog. I mean, or I'll work them and then we'll have some downtime where we're not going to have a tracking dog available, but. What do you mean? I can do it. And then the other thing is just our social media. Ask this of the police foundation as well as just any feedback you're getting, anything that you are recommending or suggesting, free to shoot me a message or a text or just. I know it's weird that we base some of our success on likes, but we've doubled following in less than a year. So I think it's really important that, and I know Chris has talked about it, just that's why I think the survey is going to be fantastic, because we are right now with our community in combination with the SRO and SRO corner. So a lot of opportunity to get a lot of data, a lot of information out there. So if there's things that you see or you want to suggest, let me know. Paul's great. He takes it all in stride and tries to adapt, try new things. And so.
I do have one question on that.
Yeah.
Since I manage so many of those for clients, how much, if any, are you hiding comments
We shouldn't, it's public record.
Yeah, but, oh, really?
So,
Very few reasons that you could, but.
the only thing we have in our or whatever is that any profanity in those things are not shown. And set that in there so that, yeah, just. Aside from that, yeah, we can't.
So if somebody in a comment calls out a person, you can't. Good to know.
Now, so there's this, I call it gray, but there's something that we probably should. Where you can hide comments.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
They're not deleted, they're just hidden.
Correct.
And they're only hidden from the public. They're not hidden from the author.
Right.
They're friends, but they're hidden from, like, if it goes into a forum or goes onto the community, sure. Somebody's being really derogatory towards somebody else.
That's what I was asking
Yeah,
about.
you have the ability to hide those comments. Are they completely hidden from everybody? No, but I don't think we're.
I think they just hide them from you. Everybody else can still see it.
Well, so if it's on my page, I can hide the comments from the public, but it won't. Say Brian said something and I didn't like it, I could hide it so that Lori couldn't see it, but Brian would still see it.
That's how it works.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's other ways where you delete, which some of us have experienced. But hiding the author still sees it, but it's hidden from the rest of it's still seen by the managers of that page. And I just was curious. I understand the whole issue of it being a public entity, but I could see some situations where it would be proper to hide or comment.
that's a recently new tool, at least that I'm aware of in the
That
last
was a-
year or two, so.
Big conversation down at League of Oregon Cities conference. Several sessions on elected officials and cities, social medias, and one of the questions was, can I delete something? What do you mean I can't delete something? Different if it's on like my council page as opposed to if I'm just a campaigning page, where I'm not elected yet. Yeah, so it's just careful of public records.
Yeah, and we have actually everything's tracked. Marsh hired, so done through social media. Even if we technically deleted it.
Somewhere. Oh, that's good.
It's just a safeguard so that people can't come back and say. Last thing real quick, open PAB. We have 5 applicants.
Yes.
And so Councilor Young had mentioned a couple that had put in for the.
Did they apply?
Not yet, but I wrote on that card as you had mentioned it, and I was writing on business card to give them. So I said, well, if you have it, hopefully, maybe if they have an interest, they'll apply as well. One or both of them, but that closes
Tomorrow at 5.
tomorrow at 5.
I'm fine. And our interviews are in November.
Yeah.
And with that said, I want everyone on this page to value. Always important for us. That our plate. Hey, you have too much on my plate now, or maybe there's some other things I'm interested in. That's ever the case with.
I always feel more valued if there are donuts.
Or take your ice cream like I do at traffic safety.
You shouldn't have left.
Dinner when it's I've got plenty of room for donuts. Always got room. That's good to know.
Do we have
That's a good
anything
takeaway.
in our-
See how I can fit that on the budget.
I think that, there's an absentee, ordinance, right, or
Yes, there's so many.
Yeah, because we had to address that one time early on in our board.
Yeah.
A few times.
Well, that is something that, we will be addressing. I'll send her out on that mission.
She'll send a legal letter.
Yes, yes. But yeah, we do want to stay ahead of that, in front of that. Variance.
Well, to your point, what you said, probably were semi-joking or before the meeting started, but we do have 5 applicants, and like you said, if there's folks that are feeling like send that message out too.
All right, well, thank you. Okay. Citizen comments. Have any citizen?
Nancy, you have anything to say?
We've missed you, I'll say it.
Welcome back.
At the bottom of the screen when it says one watching. I've seen you.
The watcher.
Three watch.
Well, thank you.
Is one of them Lori home?
Probably.
No, it doesn't show. Not a friend.
Usually, if I know she's watching, I usually just do something for the girls.
Well, is there anything else any other members would like?
Move to adjourn.
Second. Motion moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Now adjourned. Thank you all for your time.
Yes, thanks for hanging on here. What is it? 9:04.